All right, thanks everybody for joining us today for 5 reasons your CRM strategy is failing and what to do about it. All right, we have Babar with us. Babar, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So hi, everyone. I'm Babar Batla. I am one of the co-founders here at SalesDirector.ai. Just a quick background on me. I spent the last 16 years between Microsoft and Google, all of it in enterprise sales. Left Microsoft running a $200 million book of business, managing a national team of sellers. These days, I'm essentially spending all my time training an AI system to become the greatest companion for revenue leaders. So that's on sales, success, and marketing.
Great to have you with us. My name is Jason Hubbard. I'm Vice President of Growth for SalesIntel, where we provide the highest quality contact data for B2B buyers in the industry. I literally grew up in startups, so I helped grow 3 top 100 fastest growing private companies. The most recent one was Cirrus Insight, where we came in number 41 in 2016. So yeah, excited to have you with us today. Cool. So, why is CRM such a struggle? From its very inception, people have struggled with CRM, and the number one problem is adoption. As I like to say, how do you get people to use the darn thing? Data entry is not fun. There's very few and far between people that actually enjoy going and doing that, maintaining the system. It takes a ton of time. Most recent reports say that salespeople spend as much as 2/3 of their day doing non-sales related activities, and the biggest portion of that is data entry and management. CRM platforms are really difficult. Anybody that's used something like Salesforce knows that the UI is extremely antiquated. It's hard to know where to go and do what you need to do. It takes a lot of training and education on it. CRMs are difficult oftentimes to integrate. So, part of the beauty of CRMs is that they're really customizable and flexible. But the flip side of that is virtually everything you want to do with a CRM, you've got to get in and wire it together. And sometimes it even requires, custom code and stuff like that. So you've got a ton of flexibility, but the learning curve is really steep, and it oftentimes is difficult to get all these different systems to play with each other. If you don't get them to play nice with each other, then you wind up with data silos. You wind up having, you exacerbate the problem because you've got to go to multiple different locations and platforms to try and keep your data up to date. And so that just makes the problem even harder. And then, oftentimes this leads to failed launches, which of course discourages people. And then the upshot of all of this is, it's either a virtuous or a vicious cycle. So if you want to go to the next slide. So you've got 2 approaches to it. You can go with it from just a purely, hey, if it's not in your CRM, if we can't track it, if we can't report on it, it didn't happen. So if you want to, hit quota, if you want to be compensated on your performance, stuff like that, then it better be in your CRM. That's the stick approach. You're forcing them to do it, or you're reviewing it with them. Their position or their performance review could be at risk if they don't follow these processes. They're not, updating things. They're not logging enough activities in your platform, stuff like that. That only gets you so far, and oftentimes it creates what customers oftentimes refer to as the Friday fire drill, which is you spend your entire week selling, talking to customers, doing your job, and you get to Friday and you realize none of that wound up in your CRM. So now you're left for Friday. You set aside a few hours, or more often than not, you do it over the weekend to go and try and remember everything you did that week that needs to get logged. A couple of things happen in that scenario. Your data is always at least a week old, and 2, you inevitably forget things. So it's not an ideal workflow or process. What you want to do is give people incentive to proactively, log this information and engage with it. And a key to that is, the virtuous versus vicious cycles you get into. If you get into the vicious cycle side of it, where you're struggling to get people to enter this information, then when you are actually successful in getting them to go into your platform, the data is not there, it's not accurate. So, they've now taken the step, but the value add of having up-to-date, reliable data is not there. And so they're discouraged from ever going back and doing that. Vice versa, if they go in and they have all of the data, all the information they need at their fingertips, and makes them better at their job and more productive, better able to target people with the right messaging and the right content to be able to advance a deal, then they're encouraged to go back and do that. They see the value there. You go to the next one. And so key to all of this, above and beyond just making sure the data is actually there and accurate, is make it as painless as humanly possible. Avoid things like forcing people to do double data entry, going into multiple places and entering the data in multiple times. Streamline this as much as humanly possible. Use technology, use automation. So, don't make somebody copy and paste a BCC email address into every email that they send so it gets logged in there. Spend and invest the money in a platform that's going to allow you to automate that. Also going to vastly increase your compliance if you do that, as opposed to forcing them to take manual steps. Minimize the amount of stuff that you need. Do an audit regularly of your processes, of your required fields, of your reports. Make sure that the stuff that you're requiring is actually important, so that you're not making them fill in information that's not valuable, not really necessary. So keep an eye to this. Make the life of your users as easy as possible. And then make sure that the data is there in such a way that it's reliable and it's valuable to them. And then in that scenario, you've got both a carrot and a stick in there. You're incentivizing them and giving them positive reasons to want to do this above and beyond just penalizing them or threatening their paycheck or their compensation if they don't follow that. On the next one. So, of course, the stat that I gave you at the start, studies say that at this point, as much as 2/3 of your reps' time is spent doing things other than selling, which should be worrisome and shocking to anybody. Obviously, you want your reps spending as much of their time doing what they're hired to do, which is selling. So hand it over to you to talk through some keys to that.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. So as Jason said, right, sales reps should be selling. I like to add that managers should be managing. I shared with you kind of my history and background at Microsoft and Google. And I have to tell you, by the time I was leaving those organizations, especially at Microsoft, I saw managers spend like upwards of 50% of their time actually buried in spreadsheets and trying to kind of navigate CRM to get insights they needed to schedule the time or to spend time with their reps and their customers. So our perspective is, my personal perspective is, the managers should not be the CRM expert, nor should there be the CRM guardian, right, for the team. They're just way too valuable of a resource to do that. We should just kind of think about it, right? Like prior to becoming a manager, these folks were probably the biggest producers on the team now. And now you're having them spend 25 to 50% of their time kind of doing these low-level activities of navigating tools and sometimes doing data entry for the sellers themselves. Now, the big question is, right, how can you expect these folks to manage, right, if they don't have visibility into everything that is going on? They have to take things into their own hands, and they end up spending a lot of time doing data gathering and figuring out those insights. Today, they're certainly flying blind. So here's our perspective at SalesDirector.ai, right? So CRM obviously had the promise and was supposed to be where everything happens, and certainly the system of record, right? Unfortunately, the reality is, because everything requires manual data entry and updating, today CRM, Salesforce, Dynamics, pick your tier one CRM solution, they have very, very limited visibility into what is actually going on If you're the lucky few, the information you'll have in CRM is really just the rep's, subjective view on it. So the Achilles heel, though, of all of these tech stacks today, marketing tech, sales tech, is really the lack of connected data, right? Data really is the new currency these days. So we at SalesDirector.ai are essentially focused on solving that problem. We automatically capture activity data, such as email, calendar events, contacts, and others. We enrich that data using our conversational AI assistant and third-party data tools like SalesIntel, and then we power analytics and insights, for our customers. Now, we do strongly believe that the solution, right, to the challenges with the ROI around sales enablement tool is better and more accurate and fully automated data. So to accomplish that, we essentially connect to platforms such as Salesforce and Dynamics, Google, G Suite, Gmail, right, Microsoft Exchange, Office 365, including support ticket systems that Salesforce has, Zendesk, and certainly our customers' internal databases of like product usage and customer health and things of that sort. So companies, right, without having any sort of a data capture automation in their organization, typically end up seeing between 15 to 20% of what is really going on. And again, if you're the lucky few that are actually achieving that, it's very much subjective and not an objective view of what is going on. It certainly is the tip of the iceberg. With full automation, right, you get this complete picture and access to data that can power your analytics or your downstream processes so that you can get rid of your blind spots. You can get early warning signs, right? Those are two huge items that can provide information to the manager and to leaders so that they can course correct before it's too late. So I'll just get into a couple of examples to kind of make it concrete for you guys on how this all works. So let me show you that today. So we use AI, right, to scan and capture data from all of the reps' emails, both sent and received. We look for new contacts. We do signature capture to kind of enhance the contacts. We evaluate the sentiment of the communication, and we'll use all of those insights and data points as part of our analysis. And then we write it all back, right to Salesforce and Dynamics, right, under the right accounts, the right opportunities, all completely automated. Now, in some scenarios, there isn't a signature for us to kind of capture and enhance a record, right? There's just not enough data there. Or if there were folks that were added to a meeting invite, we need to figure out who that person is. We go out to third-party data sources like SalesIntel, and we complete that record, right? It's the best of both worlds. We've got the automation to essentially take the human out of the picture. SalesIntel is an amazing database of verified contacts, and we leverage that data to essentially keep your CRM evergreen and provide all of those insights that I mentioned for your managers. Just kind of imagine a system that's journaling every person that the sales team or your overlay sellers are engaging with, and over time figuring out the relationship scores. So here you can kind of see a real life example of one of our customers, right? It's showing that they were missing 20,000 contacts in CRM, and 8,000 of those 20,000 could actually be aligned to a known account in CRM, just highlighting the fact that sales reps don't journal all of their activities. They don't journal all of the contacts that they're engaging with, right? Now, with the help of SalesIntel, we can also figure out the seniority and the departments these contacts are part of. Now, CRM, right? It's essentially a store where all of the activity and contact data ends up. through this automation, but certainly there's a good amount of tacit knowledge that is stuck in the sales rep's head that is also not in CRM today, right? So to get that information in CRM, we essentially built out this conversational assistant, this AI conversational assistant that engages the rep in a text dialogue over SMS or Slack around their customer meetings. So here you can see the assistant essentially reminding the rep of a meeting that's coming up with Brander.io, and it's reminding the rep to remember to identify the economic buyer. Now, then the assistant collects the data right after the call or the meeting, right? And logs those things like the decision criteria, the next steps, the economic buyer, all back into CRM, right? This is all data that your reps, would never log into the CRM today. And if they do, as Jason mentioned, it's on Friday or over the weekend, and all that information is obviously decayed by that time, and they probably remember 30% of it anyway. So once the CRM is, truly, when it truly becomes kind of this master store of data, you can do a lot of interesting things. Things like you can fully build out a relationship plan, right? Or you can identify using analytics the risk of the individual deals. You don't have to go chase the reps down to figure out if they have a next meeting on the calendar around the opportunity. Or when was the last time that the customer responded back to any communication? Or when was the last time the customer engaged with a marketing asset around an opportunity, right? You get those insights right out of your CRM. Or the system could be used as a coach to coach the reps on best practices or the next best action, right? Once the system knows what are the things that are not happening, it can actually be prescriptive and provide next best actions to the sales reps. Or you can focus on the unit economics of sales and build out scorecards and manage by leading indicators. Things like number of first meetings, number of demonstrations, right? Number of deal progression meetings. Again, you no longer have to use a flip chart to essentially tally up all of that data on a weekly basis to manage the team. You can now do that systematically, leveraging the information that's all sitting in CRM. Now, I know I went through these examples fairly quickly. Let's kind of open it up for questions. Certainly, you guys can use the tool here, the Zoom Info tool, to post your questions. Be happy to answer those. If any of you guys want to reach me directly, we'll send a follow-up with our contact information, but I am available at bbatla@SalesDirector.ai. So hand it back to you, Jason.